wanted peanut butter and bananas, but I wasn't really in like a toasty kind of mood. So this is what I ended up with. So today's not like my normal, usual, hilarious, fantastic content. It's a little more of a serious story. And I know I'm talking about it like I'm kidding, but it's actually kind of scary. This isn't clickbait. This is just a little story time. Just a casual little story of the time I almost got kidnapped in Santorini. As you've seen in my last like 20 videos, I studied abroad, and we usually would go away for a weekend for 3 days, but we had spring break where we had 10 days off. So me and my best friend, Rachel, were going around to 4 different cities. So we go to Athens, it was really fun. We fly to Santorini, and it's gorgeous, we're so excited. We were staying near the middle of the island, which is Fira. So the first night we were there, we kind of just walked around at sunset. We got gyros. I will never pronounce it correctly. It wasn't good. We go to Greece. That's not where I was in the story. First night in Fira is fine, beautiful. We go back to our Airbnb later that night, and then we watched Mamma Mia. And so, like I said, it's just the 2 of us, like young girls traveling together, and obviously we're gonna be careful, but things happen. But we had been safe so far. We had been in Europe for like a month and a half at this point. No like sketchy situations had happened. And the next day is our first full day in Greece. So we decided to go to Ia, which has the white buildings with the blue tops and the cliffs. It was supposed to be the only nice day we were there. It was supposed to storm the rest of the days, which we were kind of disappointed about and just hoping it would change. We're in Ia all day, which is at the top tip of the island, or bottom tip? It's at the tip. And we eat, we walk around, we shop. It's beautiful outside. We get a little color, a little bit of freckles. Feeling real good. We'd gone to a couple restaurants that day because we were literally there all day long. So we took a bus up there because it's like a 20-something minute bus ride, and there's really no other way for us to get there. We originally decided to take the last bus back to our area of the island at 6, and then we realized like the sun sets at 6:30, and my friend and I are both thinking, you know, like we have to stay here. It's a sunset over Santorini. This is the best part of the island to see it. We gotta stay and see the sunset. And the sunset was like 6:30, completely done around 7-ish. When we first got there, we saw a taxi stand near where the bus dropped us off, so we said, okay, we'll go there afterwards. We'll get a taxi back. We watched the sunset. It was life-changing. And afterwards we go back down by the taxi station, expecting that taxis will pull up to it because it's generally how taxi stations work. Like there was literally in the other part of the island that we were staying in, there was a taxi station where there were always taxi drivers, you know, waiting to drive you. There were taxis lined up. It was a busy spot. Tourists are always coming in and out of there. As we're waiting there, this guy who's maybe like early to mid 30s walks up to us, and he starts talking, and he says he's Italian, and like we were staying in Italy, so we're used to Italian guys just coming up and talking. Like they're very flirtatious and outgoing and like relentless when it comes to women. We're trying to like drop hints that we don't want to talk to him, and he said that his cousin like was opening a bar in Santorini, like in the part of the island that we were on. Oh, I forgot a detail. After the sunset, we walked down the flight, you know, like the tight like flights of stairs in Greece that you see pictures of. We're walking down one of those, and there was a few guys just talking like that were just like, hey, hi, how are you? That sounded Russian. I think, I don't know. And that happens in almost every city in Europe, so Rachel and I were just like, yeah, hi, and then like we kept walking. And then when we get down to the taxi station, we're standing there for a little bit, then this guy starts talking to us, and he's not really taking the hint. So eventually, I'm not listening to what he's saying because I don't care. I'm looking up at the stars, enjoying the scenery because it's Santorini, and Rachel is like, I guess, entertaining this guy even though she also wants him to go away. And so eventually I see a dog, and I'm like, ooh, let's divert the conversation with the dog. So I walk over by the dog, I'm like, Rachel, look at this dog. I completely interrupt whatever the guy is saying, and which sounds rude, but like he was giving me a creepy vibe, you know? We're down by the dog, we're talking to it. We don't want to pet it because he looks like very tired and he's just chilling. There's a lot of dogs and cats just walking around Santorini on their own, and he's tired and large and old, and we were just talking to him. Rachel says to me, she's like, Jess, I'm getting a really bad feeling from this guy. Like, I have no sense of danger, and this guy is making me feel like we're in danger. And I was like, oh shit. I was getting a little bit of a creepy vibe, but when she said that, like, all of a sudden my instincts turned on, because she started telling me that he was listening to us earlier when we were at a restaurant or something. Like, he had heard us talking about staying in Fira, and I was like, okay, first of all, this guy's giving himself away. He's terrible at this. He walks over to us, he's like, you want to see my dog? And he starts showing me his dog. And Rachel was like, I want to get water. And I was like, yeah, let's go to this store and get water. So I say, okay, bye, have a good night. Oh, I forgot about the taxis. Oh, so before the dog thing, he's like, oh, are you waiting for the taxi? And we're like, oh yeah. And like, there's people taking all the taxis first, so we're like, what's going on? Like, and he says, oh, you have to call for a taxi here. Like, there's no guys actually at the taxi station, which was like the taxi drivers, which was weird. We were like, why is it a taxi station? Like, is this just where the taxis drive to? Do we actually have to call? And we didn't have cell service. We both used this company called Tim. The plan was awful. This is an anti-ad. Anyways, we only had calling service in Italy. Rachel, I think, was out of data. And so the only thing we have left is my data to communicate with anybody in the outside world, okay? Let's keep that in mind. We go into this little shop near where people are getting picked up. Oh, forgetting stuff. So the guy offered to call a taxi for us, and I was like, what? And like, I guess I said in the beginning of the conversation that I like understood basic Italian, and so he calls his cousin on the island, and he's speaking to him super fast. Like, he said he was gonna call a taxi for us, and we were like, not getting in your taxi. So he's just speaking super duper fast, and all I can pick out is that he says taxi like 3 times. Like, he was speaking so fast in Italian on purpose, just in case like I could understand what he was saying, because I could not understand what he was saying. Like, I could have a conversation with an Italian person and understand at least a majority of it, and there was not a single word I could pick out of that except taxi, because he was moving his mouth so fast. So as we're walking over to get water, this guy in like a navy blue hoodie comes along, and he starts talking to the guy in the brown jacket who was talking to us. We're walking to get water. Rachel gets her water. That's like a tiny shop where we bought the water, and so we couldn't sit down. And it was like hard to even really stay in there just because it was so crowded. So I was like, all right, there's like, I don't see them around anymore. Let's just sit at the table outside. It's like a little distance away from where everybody's getting picked up in taxis. At this point, we're still a little confused. We're like, okay, because we have to call our own taxis, but like, how are we gonna do that? We don't have call service. We're sitting there, Rachel's like drinking her water or whatever, and we're looking around for them, don't see them anymore. I'm like, okay, this is a good time. We're gonna go down by the taxis. We're gonna see if we can just get one. And the reason this was happening is because it was the off season. We found out later, because that wouldn't be happening if it wasn't the off season. We go down like right where the taxis are pulling up, so we can try to get in one first. And we're like trying to get into cars, and they're like, oh, are you this name? Like, a lady like us in front, she's like, that's me. And like 4 people hop in the car, and we're like, oh great. And I was like, at this point it's starting to empty out, and the guys in the brown and navy jackets like come back, except they don't come up to us and talk to us, because at this point, like, I'm pretty sure they knew we were on to them for something, because they're literally, I forget where the guy in the navy hoodie was, but the guy in the brown jacket is literally standing like behind a wall, like looking back at us, and like on the phone, which is some scary shit. Who are you talking to? Why are you staring at us? Like, they're keeping an eye on us. That was spooky. I called my friend Molly because she was on the island. We didn't go there with her. We happened to be on the same flight as her, which is weird, from Athens to Santorini, but like, her and her boyfriend were on the same island as us, but they were staying in a totally different part. They were actually staying a lot closer to Ia than we were, but I was like, I don't know what to do. Like, people keep calling these taxis, we can't call anybody. She says, do you want us to call somebody? I was like, maybe, you know, we might be able to hop in this taxi. And I think she stayed on the phone with me. There's less people there, it's emptying out. These guys are still there. We can't like walk back up towards the main part of the island where we came from, because that's the direction they're in. And we can't walk the opposite way, because you just start going into the darkness to like a pretty non-populated part of the island. So, oh my God. This is literally a nightmare. A couple gets into one of the taxis. I literally whip the door open. I'm like, Rachel, get the front seat. And so I'm like, hi, we're about to get kidnapped. We need to get in this car. And then I slam the door closed and Rachel gets in. And I'm like, drive. I didn't say that. That would have been rude, but I was like, all right, let's get out of here. We said like, we'll pay whatever. We were going to different parts of the island, but we were like, you know, just take us back to Fira. We will figure it out from there. So the taxi driver drops us off in Fira. The fact that we were staying at an Airbnb made it creepier because even once we got back there, you don't know if they were following us. Like, it just made it creepier that it was just two girls staying in an Airbnb, like we're the only ones, rather than we're staying in a hotel and there's the people at the front desk, there's security, there's civilization, and there's a bunch of rooms that you'd have to figure out which one they're in. So we're chilling at the Airbnb, just kind of like reflecting on what just happened. And my data starts cutting out. Our Wi-Fi at the Airbnb was working the first night and then it wasn't working now. Like the second night, the Wi-Fi was just horrible. Like it was worse than data service. Rachel didn't have data. My data was running low. At this point, like I didn't have like a feeling of paranoia. Like I feel like before I studied abroad, I used to get worried more easily. And like while I was abroad, and this is like halfway through the trip, I kind of realized like I can do my best to live a long, happy life, but there are some things that are out of my control. So I don't worry as much as I used to, even at this point in the story. But we almost literally just got kidnapped or sex trafficked, some sort of human trafficking or something. We saw it was supposed to storm the next couple days on this island, and it was, so we wouldn't be able to go to the red beach, the black beach. We wanted to go on a sunset cruise. We wouldn't have been able to do that. And we were supposed to leave like in 3 days, and it was supposed to lightning storm. We wanted to get off this island. Like it wasn't like this paranoid feeling of like, oh my God, somebody's gonna come get me. It was this feeling of just like, you know, when you ever get a gut instinct and you just know something's bad? It's not like I'm worried that it's bad. It's like, you kind of know it's bad. Like I don't know if you're an instinctual person. I just had a feeling like if we stay here, something bad's gonna happen. This is a tiny island. I wouldn't even be surprised if we ran into them again. Rachel is like, we're like, let's rebook our flight to Berlin. We're going to Berlin next, and which is a very different place in Santorini. The temperature was like 75 degrees in Santorini, like 40 something degrees in Berlin. Berlin, more like Berlin. Please dislike this video. And I would have never imagined a day where I was dying to leave Santorini. We can try again in Mykonos one day. We're on the phone with like the airline company and they say they can switch Rachel's ticket. We're like, okay, great. Like, could you switch another one? And he says that might be the last one. And at this point, I don't remember if she'd already gone through with getting it, but I was like, oh my God. Like, worst came to worst, our friend and her boyfriend were on the island, but like that would be like worst case scenario would be like I have to go stay with them, because there was no way I was staying in that Airbnb by myself after that happened. Obviously I don't want to do that though, so, and like neither would they. By the grace of the Lord, they had one more seat on the plane. So, and it was 11 a.m. the next morning, and we stayed up late watching Mamma Mia for the second time within those 2 days. We got there, we bought food and coffee, we waited for the plane, and then, oh, let me tell you about this airport. Okay, it's not even that it's a small airport, it's that it's not a high functioning, like there's something missing from the brain cells of whoever is running it. We're waiting to board the plane, and they take us on a line right outside the building, and there's a bus that's gonna take us to the plane. And there was a plane we saw just land that was maybe 100 feet away from the airport. But I still wasn't expecting that was our plane, because there was a bus like waiting for us to get on it, and the plane was right there. Like it literally would have taken less than 20 seconds to walk to. Like maybe it wasn't even 100 feet away. It was so close. It was smaller than a football field, like the short way. Here's the bus. We get on the bus, it just goes like this. There are people walking faster than our bus is driving. Like there are literally airport workers walking past us. And then the bus drops us off at the plane that we could have walked to in 4 seconds. So I'm glad Santorini also is very efficient. We hop on the plane, at LAX. Just kidding. LAX would know what they're doing. You know, I'm just thankful that we got a plane. Honest, why am I complaining?
Sorry, I meant complaining.
I'm just thankful we got a plane. And then we were out, okay? I wasn't even annoyed that I didn't have a window seat. I can't believe I was happy to be leaving Santorini. We landed in Berlin. We were freezing and not expecting it to be that cold. Like, we looked at the weather, but we kind of forgot what 40 something degrees felt like. Whatever, we just like, we had an Airbnb booked for Berlin originally, but we booked 2 days earlier to stay at a hostel, which was dusty and uncomfortable. Like, you'd think the whole almost getting kidnapped thing would be like the most traumatizing moment of my life. But I think the most traumatizing moment of my life was having to use the showers in that youth hostel. I think the life lesson here is don't worry, be happy. And is that the lesson? I don't know. Yeah, I don't know what to say now. I just like have nightmares about it sometimes. Thanks for watching. Be careful when you're traveling, but don't like worry too much. Like, if you're actually in a bad situation, get yourself out of it, you know? But that's the lesson. If you're in a bad situation, don't worry, but do get yourself out of it. That's good. Worry never helps anybody. And yeah, subscribe to my channel for content that's usually not like this. Everybody wants to fool the world.